Hello and welcome back to Speed Demon Painting. Today we are taking a look at how I went about painting the Chione submarine for Dystopian Wars for the Enlightened faction. Now I have made a video previously on how you can achieve the look of the hull using both an airbrush and without using an airbrush, so if you want to have a guide on how that is done, links are in the video description below. Now the big change I have made to these models compared to those first videos is adding the red OSL effects, and those are airbrushed on, but you can again use the guide on how to apply them by using stippling techniques. The only thing you would have to do is mix the red and the blue together as well to achieve this. Now, the blue I have is a lot more bright than what it is on the other models, so I apply a bit of rust pigments, but my tip to apply rust pigments is to mix them in with a bit of matte varnish, so you can create a thin rust film to go over your hull and it won't be as bright and gaudy, and also it'll cling to the model better and not rub off over time. After this rust wash is applied, you end up with a model that has quite a bit of rust in the recesses, perhaps a bit more than you would like, but you can fix this by applying an oil wash using some black oil paint diluted with mineral spirits, or I believe they are called methylated spirits depending on where you are in the world. Now this stuff is toxic, so this is a warning. If you are doing this with your children, make sure there is an adult present so they don't accidentally swallow it. And after the oil wash is applied, this is pretty much what you end up with. Now the great thing with oil washes is that you can actually take them off as well using a makeup sponge if you want, so that you sort of revitalize the color that is underneath there and you get that bright blue, which has been toned down admittedly a bit with the rust wash. But yeah, they're great and easy to work with, and you can see me rubbing off the whole thing here with a makeup sponge that I have clearly used before because it is a bit dingy at this stage. Now the purpose of this video is not so much to show a bunch of video material of me applying the paints. It's more about a step-by-step on how I went about achieving the look of a model. It is very hard to replicate the exact movements and brushstrokes of anybody painting models really, so it's more about teaching you how these are applied, what the logical steps are, in my mind at least, on how you applied paint. And if you like these sort of step-by-step videos and you want to help others find these videos more easily, make sure that you give this video a thumbs up so others can find it as well through the YouTube algorithm. And if you want to see more of these videos in the future, make sure you subscribe to the channel as well. Now after the oil wash has been removed, we are going on to the fun stuff, the different OSL effects. Now if you want to have a convincing OSL, you really want to make sure that you have a brighter light source than you do the surrounding area. And we're also going to be painting the glass canopy in a two-tone effect, which is coming up after I've applied the different paints for the OSL effects. Now for the OSL effects I will be using Vallejo fluo paints. Now there are many other brands of fluo paints out there, but they all have a common thing. They need a light base coat to really pop. So I'm going to take a bit of white paint and apply it into the recesses that I want to glow before this thing actually has a bit of punch to it. There are many white paints that you can use for this as long as you dilute them a bit so they flow into the recesses, but personally I like using this white ink by Green Stuff World because it is incredibly opaque and it works very well, I found, in combination with the fluo paints from Vallejo Game Color and Model Color as well. Now in order to punch up that color, I'm also going to use this incredibly bright lemon yellow from Vallejo Model Color, but again things like Flash Gits yellow from Games Workshop will work as well, and I also use a slightly darker red as well in case that some of the larger areas need a bit of an offset compared to these light colors. And after most of the white is applied, this is pretty much what the model ends up looking like. Now there's a few areas I haven't done yet. The most tedious ones by far are the side weapons, the broadsides for these, which I'm going to hit now with some white paint before we can continue on with the glowing orange. And after you have applied the glowing orange, the fluo orange to everything, this is pretty much what you end up with. Now this is already a pretty convincing effect, I have to say, so you can leave it there. But what I do next is go around with that bright yellow paint to sort of leave some small dots everywhere, and in case of the lenses I go around applying a few yellow stripes at the bottom of it to sort of create a lens flare effect on them as well. This is a step that takes a while, but it does pay off to give that OSL effect a bit more of a punch. And after all of these yellow dots are applied, this is pretty much what we end up with. Now I am going to add a bit more dark red in those back areas as well, because those are the more larger pronounced areas, and they can do with a bit of a darker red to offset everything. On the lenses I also applied a few subtle stripes of white paint, that white ink I used earlier, to sort of mimic a reflection of light on these glass sort of surfaces. And before I start on the glass of the canopy, I actually give the metals a quick dry brush with some silver just to make them pop a bit, and because I don't really want to risk hitting any work I do in a later stage by highlighting the metals and hitting some of the glass, that takes a lot of work, so you want to apply your highlights before. For this I used a dry brush technique, as I explained in the previous videos linked below, and yeah, that sort of brings a bit of life back to the very dulled down metallics at this stage after the two washes. Next up we're going to be doing the two-tone effect, and for this I do use quite a bit of paint. I start off with a medium bright blue, which then goes down into lighter blue shades, and then for the reds I actually use the same colours I've been using for the OSLs so far, which is a medium flat red, the bright orange and the bright yellow. To start off the process, I mix 50% Magic Blue from Vallejo Game Color and 50% Flat Red to create this purple tone, which acts as a perfect base coat for both the reddish colors and the bluish colors applied to the two-tone canopy. Now you do want to apply two thin coats of this, because some of the metallics are going to shine through if you don't. Now the idea of creating a two-tone canopy is by applying one color at sort of the bottom of the glass parts, the reddish color in this case, and then using a bluish color to offset that in the other corner of the glass canopy, so more towards the top, to sort of mimic that light refraction that you get with glass. Now before we start off, we do want to have these things sort of blended, so I mix in a bit more of the red into the base mix of purple, so you get a bit more of a reddish purple, which is applied at the bottom, and then a bit more of the Magic Blue as well to get more of a bluish purple, which is applied more at the top. This intermediate stage will help blending the two things together, but you do want to have some of that first 50-50 mix of purple in the middle, so that you get a neat little first blend as well. It does help to thin your coats as well, so that your paint isn't too opaque, and that does mean sometimes that you have to apply multiple coats, but yeah, so be it if you want to get a nice smooth transition between the two different colors. Now after I've done the base layers, I go and highlight the blues up using Electric Blue and Sunrise Blue from the Vallejo model range, ending up with a line of pure Sunrise Blue at the top. Now the next part is to go and put the red areas in, and for that I use the flat red, orange and yellow, and the clue really is about, using thin coats of each color, and then just stretching it out, feathering it out towards the bottom, and ending up with as thin a line as you can possibly manage of the pure color, which is the yellow at the bottom. And this is pretty much what the whole thing ends up looking like. You get a very bright fiery red at the bottom and a very cold blue at the top, creating some neat little contrast. Now the glass canopy does take a while to achieve, but the payoff at the end is very good, and I hope you've learned something from this video. And if you liked it, remember, give it a thumbs up, and I really do hope to see you in the next video. Until then, bye!